The main part of my business are Pokeballs, just like it says. So I build dioramas inside acrylic spheres that I make into Pokeballs with scenes from the games, or I take custom requests.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today on the Meet the Makers series, I am so excited to be introducing Crayle here, who's going to talk about her her business. So first, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and what it is that you make.
Hello, I am Crayle of Pokeballs by Crayle. The main part of my business are Pokeballs, just like it says. So I build dioramas inside acrylic spheres that I make into Pokeballs with scenes from the games, or I take custom requests of people who are like, well, I really love hot dogs. Can you have these two Pokemon eating hot dogs together? Like, I've done so many kinds of scenes now. I've actually made over 500 Pokeballs alone in the last 4 years.
Wow.
So yeah, things have really taken off. I'd make other diorama type products too. So lately I've been playing around with resin. So I made some flower teas. This one has tie dye
I love
and inner
that.
tube. And then I made some bubble trays and coasters and things like that, also with Pokemon stickers in them.
Nice.
I'm always expanding now because during 2020, when there were massive supply chain issues, I could not get my acrylic spheres anywhere. Like I think production had stopped, and the stuff I was getting was broken or really messed up. And then I'd go to exchange it, and they'd say, "Well, we don't have anything left. You can get a refund." But I didn't have what I needed to make my main product, so I started making Poke mugs because I have so many mugs in my house. And it started out, it was just a Charmander on a lemon on some like brown paint, to look like tea. And I was like, so Charmander can keep your tea warm. If you don't know who Charmander is, he's a fire Pokemon. And people really liked it. It really took off. And so now I make dioramas out of everything. So
That's awesome. Yeah. And so for anyone who doesn't know, we actually own two dioramas. We have a Greninja and I think my son got a Charmander, right? I don't remember.
did he get a Charizard?
Maybe it was a
He got a
Charizard.
Charmander.
He got something in that evolution chain.
Right.
That's his favorite Pokemon. So it might have, I think it was a Charmander.
Was he in the desert?
Yes.
That was a Charmander. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. So we actually have some too, which was very exciting. But so, this is kind of a niche product. It's a really niche area. So what got you interested in creating these to sell?
Well, at first I just wanted to prove that I could do it. I saw a Tumblr post that was somebody's two-dimensional digital art of what are Pokemon doing in their Pokeballs all day. And I've been playing Pokemon for over 20 years, so I've like always hoped and assumed there's different canon out there about whether or not they're just like asleep in there or if it's like something nice happening. And so the main one that was like the front of the post was Pikachu watching TV. And I was like, I could do that three-dimensionally, right? So I started looking up diorama videos, mostly from model train diorama building videos, because those are so beautiful and detailed. Like,
yeah,
model train people know where it's at. Okay.
Right.
And so I thought I invented the idea all on my own. It turned out I was so wrong, because after like my third day, I had already ordered a bunch of stuff while I was figuring it out. I saw it there on the YouTube suggestions, make your own DIY Pokeball diorama. And I was just like, no. But so there are a lot of people out there making them. They're so unique though. I mean, handmade items almost always are. So everybody brings their own idea for what the scene inside is. And some people have slightly different methods for making the outer Pokeball part. So,
Okay.
I mean, there's some really talented creators out there, but still I was a little bitter that I didn't invent the idea first.
Right. We always think we're the first one with this great new idea, and then you're like, oh crap, I'm like person number 20.
Right. But I started selling them at first just so that I could keep making more, because I really enjoyed them and didn't have room all over my house. I mean, this is almost 6 inches in diameter.
Yeah, they're not
here.
small.
Like, I mean, and I could make slightly smaller ones. I make ones that are 4.7 inches in diameter. But even so, like I could not keep all the ones I was making around my house. So I started at like a really low price point. I just wanted to be able to afford to keep making them. And then demand took off. I started getting custom order requests. I was like, oh, I should really take these to a convention. And then the pandemic hit and all the conventions were
Oh,
closed. So I spent a lot of time, like I have my own website now and stuff like that. I just spent a lot of time like being active in groups and talking to fans. Like it is very niche. So just spent a lot of time talking to fans about what do you want, what do you want to see, and felt very prepared going into convention season in 2021, near the end of 2021 when some things started opening back up.
mm-hmm.
Because I mean, aside from the custom orders that I was mailing out, I didn't have anywhere to go to sell them. So I just spent a long time doing research and getting to know what the fans like. So
Nice. That's awesome. And I've so many makers, I think, go through that same phase of like, I have to start selling them because I like making them, but I have run out of space and like my family is getting angry. Like, we need counter space back, please. So that's great. So what is your favorite part of running this business then? Because again, like we said, you're super niche, but I'd love to hear like what do you really enjoy about this? Besides making the Pokeballs.
because that is my favorite part.
Right.
Making the scene inside, doing the part where I make the same outer shell over and over again does get a
Yeah, that
little
gets old.
monotonous. But beyond that, I think my favorite part is when people buy my items as a gift for somebody and they tell me, some people message me and tell me, oh, this person really loved it. She loves that you paid attention to this detail or that detail or whatever. Because then I feel like I get to be a part of someone's special day, even if I don't know them, like I got to help somebody give someone else something unique into their taste. So I love that my items are really frequently given as gifts now, which took me a while to figure out how to help people learn how to give them as gifts. Because for a long time people were only buying them for themselves. They're so specific.
Yeah.
And so I ended up typing a guide. If you go to my website, it's crayleyvanest.com. So CRAYLEVANEST.com. When you go to the art blog, there's an article in there about how to give a custom Pokemon gift, even if you don't know very much about Pokemon.
Oh, really?
So, and that made me feel really good too, because especially grandparents, it's so sweet when they want to get involved in what their grandkids really like, but they didn't grow up with it, obviously, because it was way after they were,
Yeah.
getting into what their special interests are. And so, I just came up with all kinds of tips that I've learned from working with people who are trying so hard to get something special, so that blog post is up there.
Okay. And that is something I've learned because my son plays Pokemon and my husband plays Pokemon. And, I grew up with a brother who played Pokemon and they've now gotten me into it. I blame them for the fact that I am well sucked into Pokemon Violet right now, but it's so very personal. Like people have very strong feelings about specific Pokemon. Like it's not just, oh, love the idea in the world of Pokemon and whatever. It's like, no, they like seriously dislike some. Like there are some of it is adamantly their favorite, or they have very strong opinions. And so buying it as a gift, yeah, it can be really challenging. So it's really awesome that you've created that guide to help people navigate what ends up being a very passionate topic for people.
Absolutely. And the nice thing about being able to completely customize the scene inside is one of the things I've talked about there is that if you can't figure out how to sneaky ask them what their favorite Pokemon is or whatever, what I can do is we can take one of the more popular ones and we can put it in a scene that is nicer to them. Like if you're giving it to someone who goes to the Outer Banks, North Carolina for vacation every year, then I can put scrub grass in there like you find on the Outer Banks on like a beach scene with the waves and stuff, and then just have like Pikachu having a beach picnic. And even if Pikachu's not their favorite, that's still so custom.
Yeah.
There are ways to do it. It just took me a long time of working with people putting in custom orders to figure out how to help people make those selections.
Yeah, that's great. That's a really great strategy for that. So what was one of your biggest challenges in getting started in your business?
Well, I come from a digital marketing background where I had access to very early in my marketing career, had access to a lot of back end data that like these large companies and large nonprofits were paying for the services and the bookkeeping programs and stuff like that. And so I had gotten very reliant on making a lot of decisions based on having that data. And as a sole proprietor, I can't afford those programs. And I wouldn't have time to do that kind of analysis all the time and actually make the stuff. So I had a lot of intense anxiety about whether or not I was making the right things. Because everything I had to go off of was anecdotal. I was talking to people, listening, writing things down, but like I wasn't really able to start mapping things out until about a year ago. So that was a real struggle for me because I went from having all of this number data stuff where we could be like, oh, this messaging worked with this group and now I can target it directly to them.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm like, I show up in a group like, hi guys, do you like this stuff? Yes or no?
Right. Yeah, it's that starting from scratch, right? Like you figuring out who the audience is, what they like. And yeah, for someone who's used to making those decisions for much larger scale, I can see how that would be an interesting like flip side challenge.
It really was like, I was just like, where's my data?
Right. And you're like, there's zero information right now. And people are not always honest with themselves. That is a rant for a different a different day. So what are some things that you're hoping to accomplish in the next year in your business?
Well, I have changed up my display for convention spaces and I've started buying bigger convention booths, like the 10-foot by 10-foot spaces. And so I'm really hoping to get a better layout down because that's less stress when you know generally what the setup is going to be each time.
Mm-hmm.
Because the bulk of my business is in-person events where the ideal customer is coming to me. That's comic conventions, gaming conventions, and tabletop conventions for me. Thank goodness Pokemon fits into all three of those
All three.
categories. Because there's the manga, the anime, and the card game, right?
Yep.
And the video game. There's all that. But doing in-person events like that really frequently is hard on your body and your mind. It's very stressful because it's a lot of pressure on a really short period of time. So I'm looking for anything I can do to streamline that. And since I've just expanded into these bigger spaces, like it's very, very important that I really figure out what setup works best for me so that setting it up and tearing it back down in these very narrow windows are less stressful.
Yeah. Oh man, I don't miss that about vendor events because it is exhausting. So even if it's a successful event, you still get to the end of it and you're like, and now I need to sleep for 3 days.
Oh yeah, eliminating that stress prevents burnout because sometimes you finish an event and you're like, I need to replace the stuff that I sold, but instead I just I can't go deal with it right now. So
Yep,
I
exactly.
mean, I have a really great set of go-to people who help me out at conventions. My husband goes sometimes. A friend of mine that I worked retail with before we both stopped working in retail, like that's really great because when you do vendor events, if you're talking to people who aren't your customers a lot, you can miss people who are on the fence about coming in to look at your stuff closer.
Yeah.
And since we have that retail experience of working together, we can be talking about something and then a potential customer walks up and just we shut it down immediately. It's such a nice rhythm.
Nice.
So if you're doing vendor events, that's really important is to find some people who enjoy the hustle and bustle to go with you and who also can understand suddenly sometimes you just have to stop socializing.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. So, what is something you wish that you had known when you first started out on your business?
I wish I had understood that the product I have on hand is still an asset because sometimes I would look at it in the beginning of the year and be like, oh no, I'm in the red. I'm losing money. And my father-in-law was the one who pointed out, he was like, you're carrying $10,000 worth of inventory. That's an asset. Your business is not in debt in that sense. It's just not liquid yet. Stop
Right.
stressing yourself. Like, the items you have are worth money. That's an asset for your business.
Yeah. That's a really great way of looking at it because, yeah, I can see how if you don't see any money coming in right away and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to afford any of this without recognizing that, like, you could liquidate so much stuff if you really needed to.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time to share with us today. And so the very last question I have for you is, where can people find out more about you and your products?
So I have all of my social media, my website, my web store, ways to put in custom orders and things like that at linktree.com/Pokeballs by Crayle. So that's POKEBALLSBYCRAYLE. So if you're interested in purchasing, you probably already know how to spell Pokeballs, but my name is a little tricky. So it's CRAYLE. So linktree.com/Pokeballs by Crayle. All the links are there.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again. And I hope you have a great day.
I hope you have a great day too. Thank you for taking the time to chat with me.
Yeah.